order, and let's proceed. All right. So, do we have any minutes from the last meeting to approve? No?
Yeah.
Let me just look at the agenda. That might help.
Minutes from the July meeting.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion for approval?
Yeah, move to approve the minutes as written.
Okay. Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so we have a garden club grant application on the agenda. Rob, I guess that's Robert Charity.
Yeah, I can speak to that briefly. We did submit a garden club grant application. Initially, it was to be combined with a additional ask from the cemetery commissioners, ultimately for some daffodil bulbs for cemetery application. And I don't remember if it was specifically the garden club, but someone asked us to split the two. So we did split the two applications. Charity Grace, do you have a copy of that application that was finally submitted?
I can get it.
And I think they have made decisions by now, but I haven't heard. I also am sitting on about 150 new emails today, so we may have response in there. But I was told that they were making decisions, I believe, late last week or early this week.
Yeah.
There was a concern. There was a question posed back to us from the garden club, someone from the garden club that questioned the plantings, the recent plantings of the weeping willows on Bathing Beach, which were done as part of our most recent garden club grant application. And so I responded back. I think I might have copied you, Dave,
Yeah,
on
you did.
response.
Yep.
Basically, after talking with Dale, you know, the point is obviously the application there, the water table is very high. It's often saltwater flooded, and that area is generally substantially filled. So other than the root ball that it gets installed with and the supplemental soil that we put in and around the hole at planting, there's really not a lot for those trees in that specific area to rely on for continued nutrients. So I think that was ultimately the response back. I mean, I totally understand what the garden club's getting at, which seemed to insinuate, hey, we would like to give you money to plant trees, but we also want to make sure that it's done successfully. So, we have every hope that whatever we do is a success as well, but that's where it stood.
And they're focusing specifically on the jetties, the entrance to the jetties. Then, I mean, is that what the grant covered, or the application covered, or was it a specific request from the garden club?
No, that was simply just, hey, we've given you an award in the past, and at least part of it was spent here.
Oh, okay.
And we're seeing distress in the trees that you have planted with the previous grant monies. So that was the question back. I don't remember if we had specified where the plantings under this grant would go. I know that there's definitely a plan to continue along Surfside. And that was a whole nother discussion about maintenance this year, just keeping up with the watering. It's been obviously very dry. So we did divert the guys over to get the gator bags back on and get water on those weekly now. So, it's an ongoing challenge. And I think part of the committee is going to be working on producing a planting plan. Our first step was really the inventory. I think moving forward here, we want to be able to understand not just very specific areas, but sort of have an island-wide planting plan. So when planting season comes around, we have some of these tree credits or, grant monies. We can, or in some cases, people step forward and say, we want to donate for some plantings, or just coming out of the DPW operating budget. We just want to make sure we have species and planting plans pointed out. And there's a fair amount of stumps that we're grinding with takedowns that we've just done. So we want to talk about replantings in those areas as well.
I was talking to a customer out in Wisconsin today, who's Bob Felch, who used to have the Wisconsin Trust, and he's retired from that now. But we were talking about trees on Main Street, filling in the gaps. Certainly, the Garden Club money would be of good use out there for maybe planting some more red maples along the gaps and coming into Sconset to keep creating that tunnel effect that everybody really likes. So
most of those front yards are irrigated, which I guess would be a bonus too.
Yep.
That strip is, typically taken care of by the homeowners.
Yep. And the homeowners that don't have trees at the moment are very interested in getting, and hopefully would help contribute to the planting. The planting that can be easily worked on. Any other areas where we've got to replant? You mentioned the recent takedowns, Rob.
Yes, we do have a fairly extensive list of, let me pull it up while we're talking about it. Let's see. All right. So I have New Street at Center in Sconset is a pear.
Yep.
8 Federal was a large maple. 16 Broad, we had to cut those 2 blue Atlas cedars.
Yep.
We have, at the Rotary, the tree that was damaged from that accident, the vehicle crash over the summer. That's an apple tree.
Was that at the Rotary?
Right beside the Rotary. I think it was a crab.
Yeah.
Cherry.
That's Kwanzaa, yeah.
We have an elm at North Water. We have, that was taken out there. We have a stump at 16 Pleasant. We have across from the hub at the intersection of Federal and Main. It said it was a 15-inch Katsura.
Katsura, yeah, right where Tompkins was.
17-inch elm at 19 Main. 53 Main. 22-inch stump. 22-inch maple at 19 Pleasant. We have a Bradford pear at 25 Federal. 24-inch cherry at South Water. So I think what I'll do is, there's another maple at 22 Pleasant Street, a 9-inch maple at 53 Easton, and a maple across from 22 Pleasant. And they're pretty sizable. A few of them are over 30 inches.
Yeah.
And these are stumps. So I think it'll be helpful for me to forward the list
Yep.
to the committee to, either consider, particularly now that we have pictures and species, if we want to go back with the same or similar, or mix it up and do something different. And maybe we can come back with a planting plan at the end of this. And Ben, I think back to the discussion we had with the sidewalk or streetscape reconstruction discussions, maybe some of these along these historic corridors get the treatment that we talked about with those the structural soils and planting them in a way to provide some, because many of the ones that are on these historic streetscape areas, while the stump remains, there's going to be a tremendous amount of open heart surgery to really open up the sidewalk to get at getting rid of the stump itself, but then some of the offshoots, and that'll be the time to really take a look at what we're going to have to do to make room for a new root ball and give it some room to grow.
Yeah, I think we should identify an area like you say and do a good test run with a sizable new tree and prep everything kind of like we talked about. So yeah, if you have a sort of a master list, Rob, of trees that have come down that are in stump grinding in a stump grinding queue that we can identify as top priority, that'd be great.
And make suggestions about, I think we should make suggestions about not necessarily replacing this with the same species, but maybe.
Right.
That's right. Yeah.
As to what should go
So,
back.
Guys, I'm going to forward the pictures with the description of each location to Charity Grace to distribute to all of you.
Okay, good.
And then when we come back next meeting, we can talk about this. Because it will be going out to bid. It's our standard bid package. In fact, might be worth at least sending that bid package out so you can review the language. I know Dave and I went through it the first time. If anything needs to be updated there as far as standard practice or anything like that, we'd be happy to.
Well, I was going to say, if we're going to try the structural soil prep, that probably should be in the bid, right? The bidding process.
Yeah, good question. That is, it really depends on who's doing it. Typically, when we do the stump grinding, we will let the vendor do the stump grinding, but we'll supplement them with a two-person DPW crew to peel back the bricks or remove the curbing or cobblestones or whatever is necessary to really open the area up for exposure. The contractor then will go in and do what they do, which is the grinding. And then we will typically take on the restoration. So part of this is, I think the replanting and the structural soil piece would be something that we would take on as a department, even if we work with a sub to dig it out and install it and then do the restoration work of the sidewalk, which would include the installation of the structural soils. That would be done in-house.
As you DPW's always done the planting.
Say again?
Recent years. DPW's always done the planting, and it's particularly in recent years. So
yeah. So that because the structural soils are intended to be as part of the plantings, we want to let the stump grinders focus just on the stump grindings, and then in the past we've taken on the restoration of the surrounding surfaces, just because we want them to focus on what they do well, and not necessarily worry about things like ADA surfacing and stuff like that.
Yep. Okay. All right. Let's move along here to new business. We have a formal request to remove crab apple tree at 29 Center Street. We've discussed this at prior meetings, so we've
that is to be their access. I think we all assume,
that
right?
is, yeah, and their only access.
Their only access, right?
So I think I think we really need a formal hearing about this whole thing. I know.
I think. Go ahead, sorry, Dan.
Other removals we've allowed without a hearing recently, tree credits and so forth. But this, I think, because of the American elm that's the big American elm that's adjacent to the site, I think we really have to have a formal tree warden hearing, and just to solidify, what's expected of the owner and contractors once they get on the site. So I think we should, get the hearing underway, as soon as possible.
And excuse me, Dave, what's the reason for the removal?
To gain access to the site. It's where the bean used to be, and it's that building.
Yep. Yeah, I know well. Okay.
We want all excavation to stay away from that big elm that's out by the street.
Sure.
And
are we going to ask them to replace the tree after they're done?
Yes, with
Okay.
whatever we deem fit that's of a similar caliber. I think we want a good sized tree after the job's done.
That brings up a good question, Dave. If we're allowing a taking, typically if we follow the policy, we would not leave it up to them. We would simply, before we allow them to cut it, we would have them follow the tree credit program.
Yep.
Put that deposit in place, and then once we receive the deposit,
Yep.
Give them authorization to take it.
Fine. Yep.
So that just opens up the door for either putting something back in that general vicinity or doing some other planting somewhere else in town.
But I think it would be it's a good place to have a tree. It's right near a bench, I think. I mean, it's whatever. I think a smaller tree should go back in there after the job is done. But
So,
I agree with you. The credit should be, that should be worked out.
Yeah, and especially, I used to hang out in that neighborhood at the coffee shop, and a little shade there this time of year is always very helpful with those benches.
Yeah.
And so I think during the maybe we talk a little bit about the hearing and revisit the idea that Blue Flag Construction should have an arborist that they hire on the job to oversee any construction, particularly as it is going to be close to that big elm in front, right? We had sort of talked about that, and creating tree protection zones that are done by a professional, not just whoever the site contractor is, or the site excavator is, rather.
And are they doing a full basement, or just lifting the building and stabilizing the foundation? Or
I think they're doing both. I think the porch area, they're just going to, I think, shore up. At least that was the conversation
okay,
that we had. But in the back, yes, I think that there is going to be a full basement.
And just to speak to your comment, Ben, I'm pretty sure that David's letter to the planning board, or the DPW letter on David's behalf to the planning board, did speak to recommending that an arborist be on the team for the developer to represent.
Yep.
uh,
Okay.
Yeah,
all
Right.
that.
Okay. I didn't. Right. Good. Okay. So just so it's fresh in everybody's mind, I think that's an important criteria in this.
do we have a copy of that letter, Rob? Yes?
We do, yeah, we could actually get that back out to everybody, just
Yeah,
so
yep.
that it's fresh in everyone's mind.
So we have that in hand for the hearing.
So guys, my brother-in-law is the developer, Terry, and he's completely willing and happy to play along with the rules and have an arborist on board. He just kind of wants to know how long this process takes to get a tree hearing and go through that process.
Rob, I guess that's Robert Charity.
Well, I think the letter has now been formally received. I think we have to post it as a hearing, I believe.
Yep.
And we would have everyone be able to take a look at it between now and then. I think we could have a hearing at the next committee meeting. It sounds like Jeff, I don't know, you may have to consider whether you can participate in that or not.
I would definitely have to recuse myself on that one, I think.
Yeah, I mean,
And I don't think this is a real, I mean, the tree, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with the tree being removed. I think what's important is communicating to Terry and his crew the importance of not disturbing the root zone of that elm. And I think that's really important, you know, Dave, to just really beat into these guys' heads.
oh, yeah.
So I think we should have a pretty stern talk with them next month.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's really my hearing as tree warden. It's not a tree advisory committee hearing.
That's what I figured. Yep.
So everybody certainly, and I don't know, I've never done a hearing with Zoom, so I'm not sure how that's all gonna play out, but anyway, it's anybody else that attends the hearing on Zoom is an interested citizen, not necessarily a member of the tree advisory committee, although it would be nice to have everybody on the committee in attendance. But that said, I mean, it's
So the point is that we could hold a hearing at the next committee meeting.
Okay, good.
As part of that. So Charity Grace will set up the advertising and get that. So Dave, that tree would have to be posted, correct?
Yep. We'd have to have it posted for 2 weeks, I guess. I think it's 2 weeks prior to the hearing.
So the three of us can coordinate that effort.
Yep.
And then I believe we'd have to take a look at the language again, because it's not often that we do these, but if the hearing results in a favorable decision to take, I believe it's without opposition, it's okay to proceed.
Yep, I can make that decision.
Unless, if there is opposition, then I believe it goes to the select board.
Right.
Recommendation from the tree warden, and it's sort of done through that's considered an appeal process.
Right, and that can last into it only takes one person to formally disagree with the removal. Has to be in writing, but so
for the appeal period.
And who knows how long the appeal period is if that does happen. You can pass that along because that has happened in the past, so.
And then if I can interject, and then they would replace that crab, and then plus an additional donation to the tree fund, or it's just pretty much a leg
It's
replacement?
just based on the caliper of the tree, how you know, how much money that they have to pay to a local nursery to
For a
I
similar
don't think
tree.
Whit was at the. I don't think Whit was at the meeting when we discussed tree credits recently. But Rob, correct me if I'm wrong. It's 1.5 the caliper size. Is that correct? I don't have it in front of me.
Give me a second here.
And I apologize for my lack of earlier attendance. I wasn't getting the emails notice on the meeting. So anyway, we're back.
we'll get you up to speed.
Okay, so the policy states based on the diameter breast height, it is a new tree for every 2 inches of tree lost. And so the new tree is currently standardized as a new 2.5 to 3 inch caliper tree. So for every 2 inches of tree lost, 2.5 to a brand new 2.5 to 3 inch caliper tree, we have been asking people to price it using the American elm as a pricing structure. So basically for every 2 inches of existing tree lost, a brand new 2.5 to 3 inch caliper American elm would be credited at a local nursery. That makes sense?
That's great. Thanks.
And it gets rounded up, you know, if it's if the division is a odd number, it gets rounded up to the next for the number of inches.
Cool.
So we're currently working with, for instance, we're currently working with a company called, not to be confused with Bartlett Tree. Bartlett Consolidated is a sort of an accident reconstruction. It's a construction firm that does a lot of public infrastructure repair work. And they've done tree replacements here on the island before. Familiar with our tree credit program. And they will bill the insurance company of a vehicle crash directly. So that, for instance, the Milestone Rotary incident that damaged and destroyed the apple tree, that will be replaced and paid for completely by the insurance company of the driver involved with the crash.
I see Ken Bogrand's on.
Yep, good afternoon.
Afternoon. We had something a while back for you, didn't we? Old business.
Hey, Ann, Chucker. I just got a quick question. Getting these agreements.
Since Ken is on, we've had that question about whose trees are the trees on Cobblestone Hill. You ever resolve that? Yes, no?
You talking to Ken?
Well, both you and Ken. I mean, Ken's joined the meeting, so,
Ken, you're on mute. I don't know if you have any updates on Cobble Lane there.
Up on
Anyway,
Cobblestone
if you
Hill?
can give me a ring
Right.
Or
I just want to put that to bed.
oh,
Thanks.
which one? The where we did the survey between Orange Street and Union Street?
I don't know about that one, but there was some question as to ownership of the trees along Cobblestone Hill.
I was not aware of that as an issue, and so it's
Okay.
not something I've looked into at this point in time.
Well, I know there was a plan developed for that alley from, what is it, from Orange Street down to Union?
Right.
Okay, that's Cobble Hill or Cobble Alley.
Yeah.
Stone Alley, I mean, that's
Stone Alley, right, yeah. Is that the one you were talking about, or is it a different one?
Well, no, I'm talking about Cobblestone Hill from the jetty, down by the jetties, that goes up to the cliff.
Yeah, I'm not aware of any issue that have been raised with that. I wasn't aware of that at all.
Okay, we were trying to determine whose trees, where the property lines are there, I think.
Yeah, Ken, there was a question there about the embankment getting sort of cut into over time with vehicles pulling off to the side to allow passage of other vehicles. And I think the concern was that the roots on some of the trees up there are starting to get exposed. And people were concerned or questioning where the actual right-of-way is.
Okay, well, I'll go over and take a look at it and see what I can figure out.
Okay. All right. All right, let's move on to new business. Appleton, the Appleton Road tree plantings. What's that? What's going on there?
Rob, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, sure. So this came into us initially as an encroachment. There's a section of Appleton Road that a party had put a number of stones or rocks out in the grass space between the bike path or the sidewalk and the edge of roadway. So we started to approach it as an encroachment notice. We reached out to the homeowner, and I think Ken might have had discussions initially and got quite an earful about the history of Appleton and the town getting involved with taking that private way, converting it to a public way, and then I think at that point either taking the sidewalk or adding a sidewalk. So there's a collection of rocks along many stretches of Appleton Way. When we started to look into it a little bit more, it appears that there's lots of parking issues along Appleton as well. There's certainly an opportunity to do some plantings, we believe, some installation of new trees along Appleton Drive. And ultimately, we found some old capital money kicking around. Not a lot of money, but somewhere in the neighborhood of like 10 grand. So before we just turn that back over, I figured we could take this opportunity to really take a look at Appleton as a potential roadway improvement project that included some new tree plantings and addressed some of the concerns about people parking in specific locations. Instead of possibly the rocks that are there now, maybe going in with some strategic plantings and, protecting those until they start to mature. So it's sort of, you get a little best of both worlds. You accomplish the no parking strategically by planting trees, and you get the benefits of the new trees. So that's where I wanted to start. Ken, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that you've covered that really well. The only issue there is that one of the reasons why we think that that's the best solution is you've got a lot of history with the people further down the road where there are already not only rocks but trees that have been planted in the towns right away. And so this would be a way to be able to make equal treatment all along the strip, but also address the concern with respect to the parking concerns.
Sounds good to me. I think we all should have a look, though. Take a ride down Appleton Road and see what the issues are.
Yes, so we could add it as continued discussions on old business for next meeting. Give everyone a chance to take a look at it and come back. I think I have some old plans around the time they took Appleton Road. I will dig that out and get that over to Charity Grace to forward around to people.
Okay.
So you could write notes on it when you do the tour and come back and share that with us.
And when you're going down Appleton Road, the town's right of way goes all the way up to the edge of the sidewalk on the right-hand side. So the sidewalk, all of the sidewalk is in the town's right of way, and the owner's property is after the edge of the sidewalk.
Okay. And is there a big enough tree strip between between Appleton Road and the sidewalk? How wide is that?
I don't remember how wide it is, but it certainly looks wide enough to be able to do a tree strip there.
Okay, good. Certainly that stretch could use some help. Okay, let's move on to status of action items. Rob, 38 Westchester.
Yes, that, if you remember, because I did not remember the details of that discussion, that took place, I believe, like last fall, when we had folks in from the neighboring property, and they talked about sort of the scraggly plantings along the fence line on that town parcel. 38 Westchester is a town-owned parcel with housing. And so I remember Will detailed that with a bunch of pictures and circled the diameter and types of the plantings there, most of which exist on the town's property. In summary, I think the neighbor was talking about having us remove that stuff that was detailed and identified in hopes of going in and doing some meaningful plantings of their own, sort of like a hedge or privet along the property line to basically provide a more meaningful screen. But I got to be honest, it's been close to a year before that, since that discussion has occurred, and I didn't want to speak out of turn or take action without revisiting this. It came up as a work order, and we were going to go out and take care of it. And Dale was out when this whole discussion went down, so he was not a part of it. And so he reached out to me, and I said, honestly, this has taken place so long ago. I went through some of the meeting minutes, but I couldn't remember exactly how it went down. So I wanted to make sure we had clarification before we actually did something irreversible.
As I recall, it was, you know, there was nothing of any controversy there. It wasn't close to the front of the property. It was just a lot of, I think there was some autumn olives in there and
Choke cherry.
choke cherry, you know, nothing of any consequence. And I think, you know, certainly if the abutting homeowner wants to plant a hedge along that property line, this would be good for both sides of the fence, getting rid of all that basically junk vegetation. Anybody else remember the meeting that we had up? I think we met on.
I recall there was some discussion about tree credits on that. I mean, and then there was a lot of scattered small material. So I don't know who was tasked with going out and deciding what was there, how it was.
Yes, thank you, Mike. And that, so I forgot to mention that piece. So my memory was that it was all discussed and approved, but until we received the tree credits, we don't go and do anything. And I think that is what was part of the delay. Certainly COVID was part of the additional delay. It came up as an outstanding work order. And I think our crew went out with well-meaning to go take care of it. And I think it stalled in receiving the tree credits. We have, Charity Grace, do you have good detailed notes on the point of contact for the abutter who made that initial application to us?
I have that contact, and the landscaper actually reached out to me last week, surprisingly. Katie Mitchell is her name.
Okay.
She's the one that came to the meeting the other months ago to talk about this one. And her client is completely happy to write that check for the tree credits. They just need to know how much, and they're ready to go.
Okay. All right. So I guess then, Charity Grace, you and I will revisit the package and take a look at those notes in detail along with the pictures. And I will make sure we get back out to the abutter with that. And if we had to, Jeff, if you want to supply us with the point of contact, that would be helpful. If you want to email myself or Charity Grace with that, that'd be great.
All right, Union Street. I take it this is, what is it, 20 Union Street or whatever, the Elm?
Is that where they were trying to subdivide that little lot?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Apparently that's back on the burner again.
That was was there an existing garage there or something?
Yeah, it's a small like guest house garage. The way I recall it, they wanted to pour a foundation.
Yeah. And there's an elm, I believe, near the street,
Yeah.
and then the roots extend out to the drip line that is basically out or under the existing shed or garage. And I think that we were talking that the impact of excavation for a foundation would likely lose the tree. And I think we gave I'm pretty sure we responded way back when to the proponent and the planning board or zoning board.
Zoning board
of Appeals. Yeah. First, they wanted sideline relief on the thing to do the construction, and they voted against any kind of just based on the zoning. They were trying to introduce something that didn't exist in the zoning bylaws. as I
And
recall.
didn't
And I
you
think
give you gave a presentation to the ZBA as well, didn't you?
I did.
That, I think.
I did.
And I think we were all in agreement that this is a non-starter.
Yeah.
So are they asking for the same? Are they asking the same question again? And or has the plan changed?
What did we receive, Charity Grace, that would kick this back onto the agenda? I don't see anything in the packet that tells me there's additional action out there.
To my knowledge, we didn't receive anything initially that made it on our last agenda from.
It might have been Jeff's comment of the last meeting about it. Jeff, are you still on?
Yes. The neighbor, what's her name? Liz Coffin. She reached out to me about a month ago, 2 months ago, and she said that she heard grumblings that they were going to be redoing and re-permitting that same project. So I just wanted to make for sure, even if they aren't re-permitting it, it might be sold to the next person. And I think we just need to have some language in there that's filed with the building department that, that it's maybe deemed an unbuildable lot.
Yeah.
And
I think that was determined.
Guys, is what we're talking about here is like a 1,500 square foot lot, which is completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, that whole thing is obviously a matter of public record. That whole zoning board of appeals meeting, so that could easily be resurrected if there's a question.
Okay.
All right. We got anything else?
I've got a couple of odds and ends. Some might be some old business. And I apologize again for missing some previous meetings. There was a removal we were talking about, I guess, at 6 Pine Street. And I guess the committee was opposed. Is that right?
Correct.
Yes.
So I'll check that out.
We had to look at that, and it's the tree is not in the way of anything. And anyway,
Okay.
have a look.
Okay, and then two items on York Street. And back, I guess, 27, is that the Higginbotham house?
Correct.
And that the committee was opposed to the removal there?
Correct.
Okay, good.
I think we had did we ever have, we had a hearing on that, didn't we, Rob?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
There was also, there was an issue about a sewer repair.
Right.
And
Right.
initially we thought that the sewer service was not functioning properly. And it was found out after the fact that it was the sewer main, that the sewer service is functioning well, that the sewer main needed some repairs. I'm not sure where that stands with the sewer department, but I think the hearing was a negative as far as the taking goes.
It was.
Good. Yeah, and then, because I think the town has done work in that tree over the years.
Correct.
And there is some flagging, and maybe it's just drought stress on that tree I noticed the other day. And then while we're on York Street, further down towards Orange Street, maybe a third of the way up on the left, if you're coming up from Orange, looks like there's a buildable lot there. I think it might be a catalpa. Somebody took a big limb off.
I noticed that. That lot's been for sale, and we've determined by way of Dale that the ginkgo and the catalpa are both town trees. The ginkgo is in the back part of the property, and the catalpa is on the front part. They've cleaned up that whole lot and opened it up where they put the rope across the thing. So something's happening there.
Something seems to be going.
Those two trees here on the tree inventory?
They should be.
Well, I just noticed the other day that somebody took a very large limb on the left side of that catalpa, didn't do an undercut, and there's a lot of bark damage below
Yes,
the
it
cut.
is. I noticed that.
So I don't know who was doing that. Obviously, it looked like access to the lot there.
Yep.
But anyway, just something
What's
to be
what's
aware
the
of.
address?
It's just up from the, what's that, Dover Street, West York. It's York Street, right?
It's York between Orange and Pleasant, but maybe
Right.
a third of the way up on the left from Orange
Right,
if you're going up the hill.
right.
Okay. So we don't have an address. That's fine. We could check into it.
Yep.
Yeah, I
I,
can get you an address.
We have had a discussion of that lot at a prior meeting. I know we did.
Yeah, somebody needs to be touched up on proper tree
Yeah,
technique, obviously.
whoever did that did a hack job for sure.
Well,
Yeah.
if it's a town tree, it shouldn't have been touched without.
Nope, shouldn't have been. So I think we have to look into that.
Yeah. Yeah. If you can get me an address, we'll definitely check that out, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
If you
Dale
just
Dale
call-
might even know who was, I don't know. We can find out.
I'm sure we can find out. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just happened the other day, so it's pretty recent.
Yeah, the cuts off, I quite often drive up that way. It's one of my shortcuts. Don't tell anybody.
And then are we doing more gator bags around? I mean, this drought has just been brutal.
I know we bought a bunch of gator bags back a couple weeks, and we've certainly installed quite a few already. If there's specific ones that anyone calls out, please call it in, and we can work to try to get some more of those out. But we've been filling those at least every week.
Great, good. Yeah, Tim Kelly mentioned, we've been in this repeating pattern. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, it's heat and humidity. Thursday and Fridays, chance of storms that obviously miss us. And then the weekends are breezy with either east or north wind and cooler. It's an uncanny pattern that's been going on for weeks now.
We're a desert island.
Got to do your rain dance, Whit. We need it.
Yeah, a lot of watering lately, that's for sure. Good grief.
Your new nickname, Whit, is Don Kent.
Oh, boy.
Anyway, okay, anybody got anything else?
Not here.
Okay, so,
That property is 10 York, subdivided off 16 York Street.
Number 10?
Yeah, the legal is number 10.
Number 10 York Street.
who owns the property, Jeff?
Jeff is muted.
Yeah, Jeff, you're muted if you're trying to talk.
I just wanted to say that property that with the catalpa is 10 York Street.
Yep.
And it was subdivided off of 16 York Street, but the legal is 10 York Street for that lot.
Okay,
Thank you.
And do you want a map and parcel on that too, or not?
No, I can pull that up. Thank you.
Okay.
okay, good.
Before we get off though, I want to revisit that Cobblestone Hill tree discussion for a second.
Yep,
I was thrown a little bit because I was thinking of Stone Alley. And okay, I just reminded myself. So that's the piece off of above Jetties there. And, Ken, we're going to work on that. Okay.
very
Thank you.
good.
And
Okay.
just back to that Cobblestone Hill, who owns that property? Is it Land Bank down below the old Hilfiger property?
Not that I-
There's a parcel of land bank, I believe, down in there. There's a little park. But I don't know if that directly connects to.
I think that's the other side. I think the Hilfiger property owns down the slope and then that lot down below as well.
That is correct.
Yeah, Jefferson Street.
Because I know Bob Diamond is on the other side with the
Right,
Cobble Cottage.
Correct, and they own down to the bottom as well. I remember that coming through the Concom. So both
Right.
sides of Cobblestone Hill are privately owned. I don't think there's any land bank. Land bank picks up at the Pocket Park down there a little bit. What would be, I guess, east of that.
With that bird, that
Bird
Audubon little
sanctuary.
nature park.
Maybe that's Audubon. Yeah, whoever that is. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, because over the years, I've seen landscapers topping the trees in there, obviously for the views of the water, and I didn't know, so that's all privately owned. And our concern was vehicle damage with tree roots along that road.
I think it was more of a question of what could, who is responsible for maintaining the trees, the town or the homeowner? Was it their trees, which I think they just wanted to know who
Who's responsible for taking care of them? Yeah.
Right.
So along the sidewalk there and.
Yep. Pretty much along
Okay.
the sidewalk.
Yeah, so I ride my bike down that hill and yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
All right. You good?
Very good.
Okay. So I guess we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor?
All right.
Bye.
We'll see you in September.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Stay
Take care,
cool.
yeah.
Two.
Take care. Bye.
Bye now.
Take care.
Thank you, Charity.
Of course.
Yeah, thanks, Charity.
Have a good day, guys.
You too.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good one. Take care.